And this will probably continue.
Hi, everyone. Just about to get started on our radio show. Stay tuned. Curtis Carr is here. Any questions about inspections, give us a call.
Welcome to the Dayna Simmons Real Estate Show on News Talk 560 KLVI. With over 2 decades in the Southeast Texas real estate industry, Dayna makes buying or selling your home simple. Dayna is here this afternoon to answer your questions. Call now, 409-896-KLVI or 800-330-KLVI.
God bless Texas. Well, hello, Southeast Texas. This is Dayna Simmons, and I'm so excited to be with you today. Thanks for listening in and joining us today. We have some incredible guests on the show who are going to give you some informative topics to share information not only about inspections, but also appraisals. So you're going to want to stay tuned. I have Curtis Carr with Home Team Inspection Service here. He's going to be giving us some great information. And then I also have Dakota Balfanz with Boomtown Appraisal Services. Have you ever wondered, what does an appraiser look at? What does an inspector look at? What are their jobs? How do they come along in the process? And what part do they play in either you're purchasing or you selling your home? Well, today we're going to answer some of those questions. But one of the things I always like to get started with is first, everywhere I go, the question I get asked, how's the market? So if you're curious about that too, I'd like to tell you we still have a very fast-paced market. Even with interest rates seeing a little bit of a rise, we're still seeing people buying houses. We still have an inventory shortage. There are still buyers out there who desperately want to find a home, but because our inventory is low, they're struggling, and a lot of people are making offers on the same property. So while the interest rates have risen a little, and it has impacted the price you'll pay for a house, the market is still very good. Whether you're looking to buy or sell, now is still an ideal time to do that. Now, every decision to do that is made personally. It's not a general rule of thumb that this is exactly what you should do. So if you're considering it and you have questions and you just want us to walk you through it, that's one of the things that my team does at Dayna Simmons Real Estate. We give you the information you need to make a wise decision based on your needs. And if it's not right for you, we don't want you to do it. So if you're interested in getting that information, you're welcome to call our office. We're open 8 to 8 Monday through Saturday, 1 to 8 on Sunday. That number is 409-866-8326. And if you can't remember that, you can always know it's 409-866-TEAM, T-E-A-M. Our team would love to assist you. You can also go online at DaynaSimmonsRealEstate.com. There's lots of information there for you to look into, but we'd love to sit down and have a personal conversation with you. So while the market is still good and we're looking at if you're looking to sell your house, what are the top 3 tips that we want to give someone who wants to sell? Well, our number 1 tip is to prioritize repairs over upgrades. And that's exactly why I have Curtis Carr here today. He is an inspector with Home Team Inspection Services, and he is a wonderful inspector that can go through your house and talk to you about what are some of the things that we may need to address before we even get a buyer so that we can sell your house for the most money. We'll talk through that process here shortly with him, but first I want Curtis to just tell you a little bit about himself. I've known him for years. He has not only been my personal inspector on property I've purchased for personal homes and investment property, but he's also worked with many of our clients throughout. You're going to have to tell me how long, Curtis, because I don't even remember.
Oh, it's been a while, 1996.
1996. Yeah. So you and I probably started not too far apart. Right. So right. Almost 30 years for both of us. Yeah. So getting close there. But not only have you served as an inspector, but you've also served on the state board to help make sure that the things that we need to have inspected are on the inspection. So here I am getting in talking about all those things. But first, let's talk about you, how long you've been in Southeast Texas, your family, and then we'll get into all of that.
Great. Well, thank you for having me. I've really been looking forward to coming here today. You and I have had a lot of discussions about the grandkids, so that's kind of
Yeah.
the number one thing I'd be talking about if I could.
Yes.
But as far as the business is concerned, I have been here all of my life,
Yeah.
born and raised here. I love the area. There's lots to do here. You got the lakes and the beach and the river, and there's all kinds of things to do in Beaumont. So, I had no reason to ever leave.
Right.
Don't plan on that, and have my family here. So that's a great combination. As far as my background, I worked out at a refinery, Mobile Oil, for 20 years, and that gave me a lot of experience in mechanical things, which really comes into play in looking at some of the things on a house, like the plumbing, for instance. So after I left Mobile in 1996, my brother and I started our inspection business, and we've been running that for about 25 years now.
Yeah. And speaking of your brother, talk about his business as well.
Yeah, he and I, we both started Home Team, and shortly thereafter decided to spin off a pest control company because we've got inspection for termites as part of the home inspection a lot of times. So we just spun that off, and Kenneth and I sort of separated to a sense in that he began to run the pest business and I run the home inspection business, and we still have both of those today.
Right, and your company is Home Team, or that company, the home inspection company, and then Guard Tech is the pest inspection, and
That's right.
that's a huge need in Southeast Texas as well.
That's correct. Our offices are just across the street from Parkdale Mall, behind Burlington Coat Factory.
Yeah, and we know here recently, man, those termites were swarming.
Oh yeah.
So it's important. I know we personally have 2 investment properties that our tenants call us and say one of our tenants is from out of the country, and they're like, there are these bugs. And so we called over to Guard Tech, and they went out and inspected it, and they had said they had received like hundreds of calls at the same time. So anyway, those are some of the things that are important in the beginning. So the other thing that I really love is you've been here forever. You have an investment in this community, just like I do. We stayed here because we love this area, and you want it to do well. For instance, with me, my daughter works for me in my business. And she is going to, continue and can have this business for a while. You too, don't you have so talk a little bit about that.
Yes, I have 2 sons, and my youngest son, Landon, works with me, and that's something that, you can't trade that for anything.
Oh,
That's a special relationship, special time that I get to see him every day. And so that's great.
Yeah, so family oriented. And you're right. We were talking about grandbabies. They're just a little bit, and you're one beyond me.
That's right.
You have 3.
Got 3.
Okay, kiddos, did you hear that? I need somebody to get on the ball. I got to catch up with Curtis. So being in Southeast Texas and loving it, but there are also benefits to understanding how things work here, because in Southeast Texas, we have some specific things that someone from out of the area may not understand. For instance, roofs. Our windstorm and roofs and the damage that we see on roofs because of all that we have here. So being local makes a huge impact for you to be able to do that. So you guys, when we come back, we're also going to be speaking with Dakota Balfanz, who is an appraiser with Boomtown Appraisal Services, and we're going to start to talk about what are some of those things that really need to be addressed prior to putting your house on the market. What do you need to know about? And what are the repairs that are far more important than any upgrades that you need to do? So you're not going to want to leave. Stay with us. We'll be right back. This is the Dayna Simmons Show.
Dayna Simmons Real Estate Show on News Talk 560 KLVI. To join the conversation, call 409-896-KLVI or 800-330-KLVI.
Welcome back. This is Dayna Simmons, and I'm joined today with Curtis Carr of Home Team Inspection Services. And we're about to visit with Dakota Balfanz, who is with Boomtown Appraisal Services. Hey, Dakota, how are ya?
I'm doing great, Dana. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks so much for joining us today. I wanted first for you to tell everyone out there a little bit about yourself. You've been in Southeast Texas quite a while.
Yes, ma'am. I'm born and raised Beaumont, Texas. My grandparents live here. My mom and dad live here. My other grandparents live. My dad's parents lived in Fort Acres, and once again, my mom's parents live here in Beaumont. I'm a young 33 years old.
Yeah, deep roots here, though, huh?
Well, doesn't feel that way sometimes, but I keep kind of reminding myself. And, you know, I went to Lamar University. I graduated with a business degree from Lamar. And never really left.
And you have the most adorable, one of the most adorable two little boys. I might have the most adorable girls, and you have the most adorable boys. Precious little family here. And
yes, ma'am.
yeah.
My wife, she moved here when I believe she was in the 6th grade. We high school sweethearts. We had beautiful children, 1 to 3 year old named Asher, and a 7 or 8 month old named Brig. They're pretty camera ready from all the pictures my wife takes. So they do get some good photos. But yeah, I appreciate it. Yes, you're the you have some very good looking granddaughters. Sure.
Thank you. I think so. Well, I really appreciate you being on. Tell us a little bit about, I know one of the things that listeners and that people ask me a lot is, what exactly does an appraiser do? What is their job? Who are they working for? And what do they look at when they're going to a property? So I'd love just a little information about what you do and how you do it.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. So we work for typically the lenders. We can work for individuals. The individual side is whether it's unfortunately some of a divorce settlement, just a more before they list it with you guys, they hire us sometimes. Maybe they want to try to sell it without agents. They want to know kind of a base of where their value would be at. But on the other side, we work for mostly lenders, banks, credit unions, things like that. And that's actually who we work for. So if I was going to appraise anyone's house, even though they own the house, they are not my client. So
Right.
I work for the lender.
And the buyer's really not your client either. It's the lender. You're looking out for their interest.
Correct. Yes. And even though, because obviously the house is the collateral in a purchase transaction or any transaction, refinance, home equity, things like that. That's the collateral. And so the client for us that we're working for, and you could say that we're somewhat protecting we're the buffer between the lender and the buyer, just in case something does happen if the buyer can't complete the payments or something along those lines. That the collateral is they said it was worth. When it comes to the appraisal side of it, we do not have to do it. We actually get confused pretty often with an inspector.
Right.
Because when I call and schedule an appointment, we say, hey, I'm coming to inspect your house. And so that's also very confusing on the seller side and or the buyer side. It's because all they say is to inspect our house. Well, it's just a general inspection for us. But we do get in the attic, but we're not going to, it's more of a obvious in the attic space. If we see, soot or water damage or very prominent damage, visible damage. I'm not going to go there and spend 4 hours in your attic testing your beams. Now, if a beam looks obviously out of the ordinary, we might call it out on it. And or when it comes to exterior structural, if there's cracks in the brick, things like that is not over our pay grade, but not our specialty, we will refer to as, hey, it's subject to a slab inspection or subject to whatever.
Roof inspection. Yeah. Subject to some other inspector. Right. Yeah. But I love that you pointed that out, Dakota, that you're not an inspector, because so many people think, well, I'm going to have an appraisal done and they're going to inspect the property. but you are not inspecting the air conditioning system, the plumbing system, the electrical system. You're really not inspecting all of that. What you're saying, or what I hear you say, is that you're doing a general look at everything. And if there's something obvious, then you'll note it. If you note cracks in the brick, you think it's a structural, you may recommend a structural engineer, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So a great example is I just did one that had a very large crack following. Typically, when it comes to, and I'm just talking about the cracks in bricks, if it follows the mortar, typically it's not structural. Now, sometimes obviously it is structural, but it's not and I would still call in a structural engineer out there to confirm this. But when it follows the mortar, it's more of a settlement. Maybe the bricks just pushed away from the structure itself and kind of cracked a little bit. But if the crack goes through the brick, like through the brick itself, that typically is structural. Almost a guarantee that it's structural because the force of it, the mortar's not changing, and it's dropping in a certain area, so the brick is cracking in the middle.
Right.
And so that's not more of a separation piece.
So you're looking at that in general, but you're also looking at other data as well, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. And so when it comes to, let's say I'm just doing, obviously we do the inspection, look at those types of things. And, a lot of people say, hey, the value that we see on TaxNet or JCAT or Hardin County Appraisal District, the value's this. The reason why we don't do it, they do that from the street. They don't know what the inside is, know what's updated, what's not updated, and things like that. So we go inside homes and we inspect the inside, not to be nosy, but once again to do the general inspection to see, hey, okay, well, they might have done an upgrade 6 months ago that isn't on the tax records yet, or vice versa, things like that. And so that's the way we get an understanding in our inspection. And once we get the inspection, do the measurements, get the square footage, we come back to the office. We are going through the data on the MLSs and the open market that we can compare them to. So we're not comparing an updated house to a super dated house, if that makes sense.
Right.
And so when it comes to data, it's more of a comparison, apples to apples. And we also like to bracket a lot of things. We like to bracket size, as in square footage. We like to bracket site value. And I say site value because sometimes sites are larger than, let's say, an urban home, but the contributory value is higher for the smaller lot. So if someone looks at we call it the comparable page, and say, hey, this lot's bigger, why is it getting a positive adjustment? Well, it's because even though it's bigger, the value of it is less, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. There are a lot of details that go into an appraisal that isn't just, hey, this is what the neighbor's house sold for $1 per square foot.
No, and I'm actually glad you said that, and I have no problem with the price per square foot, because when it comes to a consumer and easy to communicate from either from us or you guys to them, price per square foot is very easy for them to understand. Hey, I've got blank square footage times this price per square foot. But with that being said, the land goes into that price per square foot. The amenities go into that price per square foot. The condition, all of those things encompass into that price per square foot. So it's tough to say, okay, this 1,500 square foot house sells for $125 a square foot, but another 1,500 square foot house sells for $200 a square foot. Well, why is that? Well, the 200 square foot house has 20 acres.
Right.
And has a pool, has other amenities like that. And so price per square foot, it's very easy to describe it. But it's also, from our point of view, as an appraiser, we don't look at that because, like I said, the value of the land, the amenities, the condition, the quality, the finishes, all that stuff is encompassed into that.
Right.
So it's tough to lock that in when it comes to price per square foot.
So you do look at the closed data. So you're looking at that data and you're trying to, when you said bracket, explain to everyone what you mean by that, what bracketing is.
Okay. And I'll touch base too on the closed data. We can go back as far as a year, 12 months from the date of sale. we typically like to stay as close as we can to obviously the current market conditions, especially in a market like we're in right now. Even though a property might have sold 8 months ago, well, you and I both know that the price has gone up. Now, it's not gone up as much as it has in the past 2 years of that skyrocket that we've seen. It is more leveling out, but it's still increasing.
Right.
I always tell people they're not more land, they're not making more property.
Right.
So when it comes back to the bracketing piece, I want a bracket condition. So I want one, if I'm updated, I want one that's same condition as mine. I want one that's a little bit lesser and a little bit more. When it comes to square feet, I want one that doesn't need my adjustment. I want one that's bigger. I want one that's smaller.
Right.
When it comes to the quality, pretty much, I personally like to stay within the same quality across the board, because then you open yourself up to, okay, well, if this house is a good comparable, why is this better in quality if it's a good comparable?
Right.
And so, don't
And
really want to
age.
bracket that.
Age has a factor too. Yeah.
So age is another thing. So personally, for me, it's anywhere between. I actually don't make an adjustment because I don't see much of a difference in between 12 to 8 years old difference.
Right.
But anything above 12, yeah, you definitely make an adjustment, because it's when it comes to that, there is a value into that, whether it is a monetary value or a market value, whatever it may be. Age is a difference for sure.
Right. Now, Dakota, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot because I didn't even ask you or tell you I was going to ask you this, but just curious, how does an appraiser look at like a roof that looks clearly damaged and like it's going to, it's nearing the end of its life versus a roof that looks really good? How do you, as an appraiser, how do you handle that?
So that's a great question. And you can kind of even group this in with an AC unit or things like that. If there's an apparent uplift in shingles, there is apparent, waves. I'm just going to say waves because it's easier for people to understand. Waves and it's not smooth, and there's an apparent just this is not going to make it another 2 or 3 years type deal. What we would do is we'd be a little bit heavier inside the attic and look and see if there's any damage or any leaks that we can see. And then we'll look at the sheetrock once again, see if there's any evidence of leaks, things like that. But when it comes to what I guess what I'm going to figure out how to say this, what kind of is a fuzzy area for us, and especially my belief is, yes, is there market appeal less because it's 3 years, has 3 years left life expectancy compared to a house that just got a brand new roof? Do I believe so? Yes.
Yes.
When it comes, but if there is no leak, there is no evidence of leaks, there's no structural damage, it's just cosmetic and or yes, in 5 years it might need to be replaced. There, personally for me, there is no. It's noted that, hey, this is what is seen. This is, hey, I believe there's going to be 3 to 5 years left on this. But without there being a cold cut, straight, hey, there's damage, and this is like, it for sure is not going to make it 5 years. Because once again, my house personally, you can look at my roof. It's to one person, it might look, hey, you got 5 years left to it. Well, it might be 5 years, but it could be 15. It's one of those curveballs that
it's a challenge. Yeah. Yeah.
Because it is possible that it could outlast that. Or it could, because the new roof, some would argue to say, you talk to these people that the houses that are built in the 60s, they would say, hey, the house was built better in the 60s because the wood was different. The structure was like, all the stuff was quote unquote built better. And you've seen those photos of wood now compared to the 60s. The grains of the wood are much tighter than the older ones. All those pieces come in, and the easiest way to say is the houses that we compare it to also have working roofs, because if it wasn't a working roof, it wouldn't be livable.
Right.
And it's noted, but there's not. I do not make an adjustment for a.
If something has 5 years or more in the roof, you're okay, and you're not making an adjustment.
Yeah, because once again, if it is apparent, even the same thing with like the cracks, things like if it's apparent that I need okay, then we'll get a roof inspection,
Right?
And we'll make a roof inspection, and then once they've okayed it, then there is no monitor. But now now it's a great, and if the roof inspection comes back and says, hey, no, it's got to be replaced, then obviously that definitely hurts the value there because that's the cost.
And they require that the lender is going to require that you have it replaced anyway before closing. If you've noted it and the roofer, you note either a foundation repair or a roof repair, typically that lender, that person who's giving you the money, is relying on your report and then the report of the person who came out. In my experience, the lender typically requires that repair to be done before closing.
Yes, ma'am. And well, yes. And now, and it might not. And typically, yes, it's before closing. But what happens is we, as an appraiser, we make it subject to.
Right.
Subject. So we're saying the value we have on this report is, hey, if everything comes back clear or everything comes back, and then typically when either the inspection is done and all cleared, and or the roof is repaired, and or whatever we have. Let's say there's damage on there's a crack in the window or something along those lines. Well, we'll make a subject to. They'll require it to be repaired before closing, and we'll actually go back and say, okay, hey, and we'll send what we call it is just an updated form saying, okay, per the report, the repairs have been completed via this date, and it's 100% ready for occupancy.
Right, and then that requires that you go back and re-inspect. Well, Dakota, thank you so much. It has been such a pleasure to have you on. I tell you, every day I have people who don't understand the role of the appraiser versus the inspector. So I really appreciate you clarifying that and helping the community and the listeners understand exactly who the appraiser works for and what the job is. So we appreciate you. Thank you. You do a great job. We love it when we see your name on the request because we know you're going to do a great job. So enjoy your day. Enjoy those two little boys, and tell your wife we said hello.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much for the time. And once again, you guys are doing great. The communication with you guys and y'all's firm, I want the same feeling you have for me, even if it might not be 100% true. For me, it's 100% true with you guys. You guys run a great deal. This radio show is important because the listeners understand from every aspect and every avenue of it, and that's a great communication in my opinion. But I appreciate you guys having me. It's a beautiful day outside. I'm actually packing my house up. We're doing a remodel, so I'm not having too much fun today. So I appreciate the break that you let me have.
I got you out of some of that for a little while, didn't I?
Yeah. I appreciate that for sure. And if you or anyone ever has any questions, you have my number, and let them know.
Thank you, Dakota. I appreciate it. Well, guys, we're going to go to a break, but when we come back, we're going to talk more to Curtis Carr about exactly what does he do? What does the inspector do versus what does the appraiser do? So he's going to clarify his role as well. So don't go away. Come back. This is the Dayna Simmons Show.
A few years ago, we decided to implement a client services team, which is also called our inside service agents. And the reason we've done this is to really step up our customer service level. It's a service we provide completely for free. A lot of people might not even understand what that means or why it's important to them as a consumer, but we are licensed agents trained on the market and know the current trends in mortgage information. We can answer every single question just like an agent can, but the difference is we're not going to sell you a darn thing. There is no pressure. We're only here to answer your questions and guide you in the right direction. And when the time is right, we can get you set up with one of our awesome team members. A few years ago, we decided to implement a client services team, which is also
to the Dayna Simmons Real Estate Show on News Talk 560 KLVI. To join the conversation, call 409-896-KLVI or 800-330-KLVI.
Welcome back. This is Dayna Simmons, and I have a couple of incredible guests on our show today. We have Curtis Carr with Home Team Inspection Services and Dakota Balfanz with Boomtown Appraisal Services. We just finished talking to him about what exactly does an appraiser do when they come out to value a property. One of the things that I wanted to make sure that everyone heard him say is they do a general look around the house, but they don't do a full-blown inspection. They don't inspect all the functions of the home. So Curtis Carr with Home Team is going to give us an idea of exactly what they do. What do they inspect? What do they look at? When I'm working with a buyer and they're looking to purchase a house, you absolutely want them to know everything about the house prior to the finalizing of the purchase. If there's something that's not going to be functioning right, you don't want to get that call 2 weeks after closing that it's not working. Now, occasionally does that happen? Something's functioning properly, and then 2 weeks it doesn't, of course. But we always want to get as much information as we can up front. So, Curtis, talk to us a little bit about someone is looking to purchase a house. They have a house under contract. They're in what we have typically as an option period. Tell me a little bit about what that looks like when they make the call to get in touch with you.
Yeah. Let me say on the difference between that appraisal using the word inspection.
Yes.
I remember years ago when they started doing that, and immediately became confusion.
Right.
They're really looking at that house only from the standpoint of things that affect the value. That's not how we're looking at it.
Right.
With us, it's black and white. Is this item working or is it not working? So we're wanting to go through that whole house from top to bottom, left to right, front to back, look at everything and see what's working and what's not working. And then the state of Texas requires us to use a special report, their report, to document that. So when we're finished, we want to document the condition of that house exactly to the T of what's working and what's not. So we're going to start with the big things like the foundation, which would be the biggest potential problem you could have.
Right.
If it does have a slab problem, it certainly wouldn't be unusual in our area.
Right. It's common in Southeast Texas to see that with our shifting soils.
That's right. It's not a problem with construction. It's not that somebody built the house wrong. They did a good job with the house, but our clay soil is the problem. And it has to do with the way the water drains on one side of the house differently than the other, and it's differential settlement's the actual term. So, I was thinking the other day, just thinking about the houses that we have inspected and trying to put a number on it, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, but it seems like to me it probably is maybe about 25% of the houses that we inspect have a slab problem. Probably about 25%.
Right.
And out of those, if you get a structural engineer out, which is what we would recommend, they will make the call of whether underreams and piers are needed to fix it, or if perhaps it's going to be okay. So it would be out of our hands. We don't make that call, we let them make the call. And they would, if it needs to be repaired, put a dollar amount on it and say that they believe that this particular house needs to be repaired this way, and here's where the piers would go, here's how many, and here's how much it will cost. Then you've got that number as the agent to negotiate.
And it's a great point that you just made, is that what I like to help explain to our buyers when they're talking about an inspection is you're kind of like a general physician. You look at the overall health of the home, just like a GP does of a person. If something looks a little out of whack, you send them to a specialist. You're the one that notes if everything seems to be functioning as it should, or if something's just a little bit off. So mentioning, the fact that if you see things with a foundation that looks like there may be an issue, what you typically do is recommend a structural engineer who then comes out and makes a definitive yes it is or no it's not, correct?
That's right. And I remember whenever I started, I think I had a misconception of what it was like to be a home inspector. It seemed like it'd be real easy to walk into a house and say, well, this is right, this is not working. That'd be real easy, right? No, it's not.
Right.
It's very, very complicated because you have so many different things. Let's just say an air conditioning unit alone. How many different companies are there out there? Their unit is a little bit different than this unit. The thermostat works a little bit different. And here I'm going to test it, and I can't figure out how to turn the thermostat on because it's so different. So I remember when we started way back in '96, I actually sought out a local structural engineer to train with, to know how to make that call on the foundation. On the air conditioning, I went to, I won't say the company, one of the big companies in town, found their service manager. I spent about a week with him, and he showed me how he would inspect an air conditioner. That's how I learned to do it. So we had to do that with every single item in the house to feel qualified to tell someone else, this is either working or it's not.
Right. And so once you go through that report, and that report, as you noted, is given to you by the state. You originally were on that committee before this one to try to help make those decisions on what should be on that report and what should not. And there have been some recent changes that we talked to you about a little while back. So tell us a little bit about that report and how it's structured.
Yeah, it's referred to as the state standardized inspection report, and every inspector is required to use that. We all have a set of rules that say, here's what you have to inspect, and here's what you have to say in some cases in the report. You got to state this, or you have to state it's not this way. So it's very clearly laid out. And on the report, it lays it out into the different categories of the house. You have a section for the foundation and the roof and the dishwasher and all of that. Back in 2008, I was appointed to that board and served for 8 years. And it just so happened that was during the time when the state was going to reconstitute the rules, and I got to be a part of that. And I actually got to sit on there are 4 subcommittees. I got to chair each one of those at least once. And I was on the subcommittee representing the changes of the rules when those rules went into place. So I'm very familiar with how that happened. And I'm proud of what we did. I think that the rules that are in place and the report that is in place, it really does provide something of value to the consumer, because that's what the inspection is all about. And that's what you're all about too. We're consumer protection. That's what it's all about. And so the last thing that we want is someone to buy this house, move in, and then say, nobody told me about this.
Right.
So that's what it's all about. We want to document the condition.
Right. And so when we have a buyer who reaches out, but here's the other side of that. We also recommend our sellers reach out. So one of the things that at List we talk about is the fact that let's find out up front what's wrong with the property so that we know what we might have to negotiate with or work with, and we can address those things up front. So talk a little bit about what happens when a seller contacts you.
Well, that does happen quite often. With your company, it happens more than other companies, and I think that's the best way to do it, where if you're thinking about putting your house on the market, you can't just wait until an agent brings you a buyer and they get an inspection, and then you find out the condition. And it may be that there are things wrong with your house that you didn't know about. You were wondering why it felt a little bit warm in that back bedroom. Well, it's because your AC is not working right.
Right, or there's a duct that's busted.
That's right.
There's so many things.
That's right. You could have settlement in the foundation and not even know it. So from the standpoint of now a seller doing that ahead of time, to me, that's really smart to do that, because as a seller, I would much rather know ahead of time what that buyer's inspection is going to find, because I may choose just to go ahead and fix that. It could be the thing that he's going to find may make a buyer turn away from my house.
And that's exactly right. I've seen that over and over again, where it's not a big issue and it can be addressed, but if there are several items on that inspection, it makes that buyer feel like, oh my goodness, they're overwhelmed and it's too much. So it's trying to address that up front so that you don't have that issue. Now, we're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about that report and what you can expect and what does it look like when you ask the inspector to come out and walk you through it. What should you expect from an inspector? So when we come back, we're going to talk about that. Don't go away. This is the Dayna Simmons Show.
listening to the Dayna Simmons Real Estate Show on News Talk 560 KLVI. To join the conversation, call 409-896-KLVI or 800-330-KLVI.
Welcome back. This is Dayna Simmons, and I am visiting with Curtis Carr with Home Team Inspection Services, and we're talking about inspections. What does that look like? What can you expect? Who should get them? We were visiting in our last segment about that many sellers are getting those inspections so that they can know what needs to be repaired. I'll tell you, I just had a situation this week where we had a house that was on the market that needed lots of repairs. That buyer terminated before even requesting or trying to negotiate any of those repairs. So sometimes that can be scary to buyers. So we talked about, getting that inspection up front so that you can have those repairs made. One of the things that's a real benefit in doing that is if you have a brother-in-law who works for an electrical company and is an electrician. If you want that brother-in-law to make that repair for you, that GFCI, before you go under contract, that might be a little cheaper than when you go under contract. The buyer has the inspection, it calls for GFCIs, then at that point, our contract requires a licensed person make that repair. So getting that inspection up front, before you even put your house on the market, is a great idea to be able to make those repairs ahead of time. So Curtis, let's talk about when you go through, either with a buyer or with a seller, you arrive at the house and then you start your process. What does that look like, and what do you do with that client to make sure that they understand?
Okay, I can only speak for how our company does it, and we probably do it a little bit different than other companies because we bring a team out.
Right.
Most inspection companies are a one-man team, if you want to say it that way, and we'll bring minimum of 3 people. So we're going to do it just a little bit differently, and we can do it a little faster. But ultimately, the process is still the same. We have a series of things that we're going to look at, and we have a certain order that we're going to go through. And as an example, I may turn the air conditioner on when I first get there, but it needs to run a while before I do my test. So we have a certain set of procedures that we're going to follow. There's certain tests that we run that help us to find plumbing leaks and different things like that. But ultimately, we're going to look at that entire house, and then when we are finished, sit down with the client, whether it be the buyer or the seller. We're going to talk about all of the things that we found. I want them to have a perfectly clear understanding of what we found. I don't want there to be any misunderstandings on anything when they leave to go talk with their agent.
Which is why I recommend that the client be at the inspection with the inspector, because you can sit there and explain exactly what you just discovered.
Right. I was doing a house just yesterday where we were sitting in the dining room beginning to discuss what we found. And I was talking about some wood damage under the eave, and I could see the look in their face that this is not good. Maybe we shouldn't buy this house. That was the look I was getting. So I said, well, let's go look at this.
Yeah.
I showed it to them, and then the husband says, oh, yeah, that's not bad. I can fix that.
Right.
So in some cases, I know that I need to take them out and show them. In other cases, I can say, there's this crack in the sheetrock. It's not going to be a big deal. You got a little small hole in the door. Not a big deal. Some of the things I'll have to explain to them. Maybe they don't have any electrical background. I'm trying to explain some problem we found when we dismantled the panel box. It could be that I have a picture on my phone I could show them of what I saw. So ultimately, that part of the process may take 20 to 30 minutes to do. And when we leave, that report is going to go out later that day that will document everything that they've already talked to me about with pictures.
Right.
So that when they then talk to the agent, they're somewhat familiar with it.
Mm-hmm. And they have a clear understanding. And I think that's what's important. And your job when you go through it is not to make them afraid or to not make it a big deal either way. It's just to speak the truth and the facts of what's going on. I love the fact that you mentioned that you're a team and you have specialties, because we're the same way. And when I get a copy of your report, even if the buyer does have questions, I've often just picked up the phone and said, hey, Curtis, can you clarify that? So I really appreciate that. If you have any questions or have the need for a home inspection, reach out to Home Team and Curtis Carr. And Curtis, can you give them your telephone number?
Sure. We're here in Beaumont at 409-838-5440.
And if you need anything with wood destroying insects, you can call GuardTech at 813-2290. Let me tell you, I have both of those telephone numbers memorized.
That's right.
You're welcome to call my office at any point in time. We can get you connected with them, or if you have questions about inspections or appraisals, 409-866-8326. This is the Dayna Simmons Show. Have a great Saturday.